Yo, how are you guys doing? My name's Slender. It's great to talk to you guys today. One of my friends, Pristine, one of my good friends, Pristine, she's like, you know what, Slender? You know what I miss? You need to start reading these PTR and patch notes again. I'm like, you're right. I've just been so freaking busy. Work's taken up so much time, but that's neither here nor there. I'm going to give you guys the highlights of this update, and then I'm also going to have the full version for you guys that like to just put on the old YouTube channel and, on your way home from work, and I will read every single piece of information for you guys. This is going to be a pretty big update, guys. We're going to get the Sandworm eventually, and the PTR has been out for a few days now, so get in there, do some testing, see if you can break some stuff. I'm sure they'll appreciate it, and I'm going to try to make an appearance over there too. I've been kind of getting burnt out on New World a little bit. So let's go ahead and get started with the PTR Season 2 Blood of the Sands release notes. So here we go. Get ready for new PvP activities, narratives, and a massive Sandworm release with Season 2. Blood of the Sands releases on July 6th. Want an early taste of what to expect? Come join the PTR. And I'm going to be honest, guys, PTR is a lot of fun sometimes. They'll do some shenanigans and stuff. They'll do like start summoning big bosses. They haven't done that in a while, though. If you encounter a bug, exploit, or have suggestions to improve a feature or piece of content, we'd love to hear your feedback on our Discord. You can also utilize our in-game feedback tool. And we're going to do an entire video on how dumb and ridiculous idea it was to remove the forums. Probably one of the worst changes I've seen to this game in a long time. I don't know what they were thinking. Dave, you need to talk some sense into these guys and get that forum back. We lost our Bug Hunter title. Are you freaking kidding me? Anyway, we will do our best to address as much of your feedback as possible before the content update makes its way to our live servers. Your participation will help us to deliver awesome content and updates in the future. During this iteration of the PTR, we look forward to hearing your playtest feedback on the following changes. These features will be tested in rolling waves. So right now, on the PTR, we have the first release, which is going to be the summer event. I'm assuming that's the Medley Fair, a new 3v3 arena map. So I'm going to try to get in on some of that, and the First Light Retraction. For the second release, this is going to be a big one. Season 2 narrative. They're going to redo or add or change the rewards track. Season 2 trials, Outpost Rush, Refresh, Siege of Sulfur, and raid groups. We're finally getting 20-man raid groups. Let's go. I am so excited about that. And if you guys want to follow along or read the patch notes yourself, I'll put a link in the description. And then Season 3, or Release 3, excuse me, is the Sandworm trial. So this is where we actually fight the Sandworm. Probably I'm so hyped for that. If this ends up being the way I think it's going to be, it's really going to make this game come alive again, I hope, because for a lot of those PvEers out there, this is what it's all about. Big 20, 50-man raids. I'm so stoked for that. Hopefully that'll, light that fire, that New World fire that I have again. And then Release 4, Crossworld OPR. I mean, that's all right, I guess. Check out an in-depth breakdown of the update in our official announcement, and stay tuned to our social channels for updates. All right, so to kick it off, we have some world experience stuff. So they resolved an issue with how the lore page for the quest, the Pirate's Problem Triggered, fixed a mismatch in capitalization for the quest, A Toymaker's Request, resolved an issue that caused the quest pin for the quest, The Curse of Carbug, to not appear if players are outside of the quest area. Resolved an issue where players sometimes were unable to progress the quest Best Foot Forwards. Resolved an issue where players sometimes were unable to complete the quest Famela's Wrath after crafting the Fire Staff at an arcane repository. Fixed the chest issue for the Abandoned Duties quest, in Morningdale by making a quest-specific chest that only appears once the player is at that location, which contains the telescope they are required to recover. Added additional gators to the Xander the Undying quest. Moved Corrupted Portal to properly block elite chests in Murkgard. Improved the cannons that you can use to access caves blocked by fallen debris. Resolved an issue where PvP missions would not reset after players recalled back to town. Added rocks to steep terrain near camp in Corsair's Rise. And finally, resolved an issue where Aethelwyn would disappear after abandoning the quest music to her ears. In Brimstone Sands, they fixed a visual issue on the map which removed unnecessary landmarks near Brimstone Sands. Fixed an issue where ancient murals in Brimstone Sands weren't visible on the map. The player animation for playing the Brimstone drum is in sync with other players and the drumming audio, and they moved Warden Reaver and Hermopolis POI so he's no longer inside the terrain. Notable fixes: they fixed an issue that made some sections of the Genesis and Depths expeditions darker than intended. Fixed an issue where the icon for Falls Watch Overlook and Windsward appeared misplaced on the map. Fixed an issue that caused the revive prompt to appear while downed in deep water when a revive was not possible. Fixed an issue that would allow players to clip through the ground in Weaver's Fen and die. Fixed loot containers placement in Castrum Victualis POI so it no longer clips into nearby crates. Fixed Rivercrest interaction in Monarch's Bluff territory. And finally, fixed an issue where some of the cliff was missing in Old Mirkgard Forest. And we've got some expedition updates as well. For the Depths, they fixed an issue that allowed Captain Thorpe to hit players behind him. No frickin' way. That right there is going to be huge. For Tempest Heart, they increased the visibility of AoE attack range for Nishatun, fixed an issue that caused Nishatun to become unresponsive after spawning, fixed an issue that caused the tether link between Isabella and the cultist to not appear in the Fallen Chandelier light or fight, fixed an issue where points were not deducted when failing a boss encounter, and fixed issue where Ironwood Tree was not awarding points in mutated mode. For the Empyrean Forge, they fixed an issue that caused Ice Pylon to sometimes target meteors from Ifrit's attacks. For B&B, they fixed an issue that caused caged alligators to retreat back into their cages after disengaging an enemy, and fixed an issue that caused players to respawn at the entrance instead of the final checkpoint. Garden of Genesis, they fixed an issue that caused the Blighted Greenskeeper's poison pool to spawn in the air. Lazarus fixed an issue that caused the objective to not update properly if the player was already in the bathhouse upon completion. And finally, for Starstone Barrows, they updated the icon text to match the objective text. We've got some AI updates. So for the world AI, they fixed an issue that caused Brimstone Sulfur Dragons to not regen stamina after retreating. Fixed an issue that caused Osiris's enemies to not regen stamina after retreating. Fixed an issue that allowed Evil Knight commanders to kill the player at death's door with an explosive mine. Fixed an issue that allowed players to safely attack the Siren Brute in the Spire of Melpomene from specific locations. Fixed an issue that caused some Tiernan Knight's shields in the Tempest or in the Tiernan Keep POI to not appear correctly. Fixed an animation of a Red Gill Retcher in Monarch's Bluffs. Fixed an issue that caused Blighted Greenskeeper's Boulder attack warning to not appear. Fixed a duplicate spawn issue for Sir Junie. This elite named AI should only spawn on the vessel docked at Atulis's foundry. And finally, fixed an issue that caused Highland's Signifer's weapon and shield to disappear while patrolling. And I believe we got a lot of combat changes coming up. So general combat changes, they fixed an issue where flare and mortar charge AoEs were not dealing stamina damage to blocking players. Increased player base HP across all levels by 10%. So this is a pretty big one. Note this change was made to compensate for the removal of the Hail and the Hardy town buff. So I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even know that they removed that. They increased the value of the non-combat 300 int attribute bonus from 10% to 25% to give it slightly more value. Players now leave combat 1 second after killing the final enemy in an engagement. Reduced default in-combat timer to 10 seconds from 20 seconds. Oh, that's nice. So we don't have to wait forever now to swap weapons. That's actually another great one. And they made it so the player is no longer slowed if they become exhausted by being block broken. New blocking functionality. So this is an important one. Added new blocking functionality that allows non-shield weapons like a spear, bow, to mitigate a portion of a ranged attack damage while blocking. One-handed weapons. When blocking ranged attacks, 50% of the ranged attack damage will penetrate the block. Stamina damage will be reduced when this occurs. Two-handed weapons. When blocking ranged attacks, 30% of the ranged attack damage will penetrate the block. Stamina damage will be reduced when this occurs. And magic weapons, when blocking ranged attacks, 40% of the range attack damage will penetrate the block. Stamina damage will be reduced when this occurs. And for shields, it remains unchanged. Blocking melee or ranged attacks mitigate 100% of the attack damage, and they slightly increase the base movement speed while blocking, so they increase it from 1.65 to 2 meters per second. And we've got the weapon changes. So for the Blunderbuss, they fix an issue where net shot could apply status effects to targets that were reposting and blocking. They fix an issue where some Blunderbuss status effects were being improperly removed while traversing the world. Fix an issue where the Blunderbuss could grant all stacks of the Empowering Breaker perk in a single shot. Fix an issue where the Blunderbuss passive Extended Chamber could sometimes grant ammo after shots were fired. And finally, for the Blunderbuss, they fixed an issue where the Rune Glass dots and various other on-hit bonuses were triggered from the impact of Splitting Grenade. Now they should only trigger off the explosion. And Blast Shot, they increased the range by 1 meter. For the bow, they fixed an issue where the player would be in a broken state after exiting Outpost Rush while aiming with a bow. Fix an issue where the Impale bow passive could trigger off of dots. Fix an issue where players were unable to use a potion or eat food when starting to sprint while using a bow. For Rain of Arrows, we've got a couple changes here. They increased the bleed damage from the Barbed Arrows upgrade from 7.1 to 15%, so they more than doubled the bleed damage from Barbed Arrows. They reduced the cooldown from 25 seconds to 20 seconds, so pretty big buff. Reduce the time it takes from the arrows to be shot into the air to when the attack lands. For Rain of Arrows, okay. And they also increased the radius from 3 meters to 4 meters. So some pretty big buffs to Rain of Arrows. Dodge and Weave passive, updated functionality to only trigger while at full stamina. For Knee Shot, rename to Rending Headshot and change the functionality from slow on leg shot to 10% rend for 3 seconds on headshot. Also moved into the location of the Evasive Tactics passive. Evasive Tactics, it was swapped out to be the ultimate in place of Knee Shot. This will cause a forced respec of the bow mastery tree. So if you guys are wondering why your bow got reset when this is live, there you go. For the Fire Staff, they fix an issue where the Meteor Shower perk combined with Rune Glass dot gem perks granted players more stacks than intended. Fix an issue where Flare wasn't dealing the correct amount of stamina damage to blocking targets. Fix an issue where 2 blocked flyouts would appear on a blocked hit. And they fix an issue where the Meteor Shower perk with Watch It Burn passive granted players more stacks than intended. Incinerate has a couple changes. They increased the range from 150 to 175%, and they reduced the recovery of the attack. So you should be able to get out of the animation faster, I guess. And for Pillar of Fire, they reduced the damage from 165% to 155, so 10% reduction. For Great Axe Execute, they adjusted the timing to make the hitbox appear 2 frames later and last 2 additional frames. And they reduced the cooldown from 25 seconds to 20 seconds. For Whirlwind, moved up block and dodge cancel windows to be after the first spin instead of the second spin. Increased the movement speed while active by 15% and increased the rotation speed of Whirlwind by 20%. And for Reap, they increased the first hit damage from 60 to 80%, so a 20% increase in damage from the first hit of Reap. For the Greatsword, they fixed an issue where Greatsword stance status effects could be incorrectly removed while traversing. Roaring Rupture, they increased the power of the Fortify from 8% to 10% per stack and increased the duration from 5 seconds to 7 seconds. So pretty big buff on that one. Skyward Slash, Skyfall Sword upgrade. They reduced the radius of the ground impact hitbox from 3 meters to 2 meters from impact point and adjusted the circular shockwave visual effects that appeared to align with the hitbox size better. For the Hatchet, fix an issue where players couldn't always transition between Hatchet's social distancing and the aimed throw at the proper time. Infected Throw has a couple updates. Aerial Transmission upgrade. So they updated the cloud visual effects and enemy visual effects size to better match the area of the effect, and they increased the damage from 120 to 140%. Rending Throw, they increased the rend power from 10% to 20%. Raging Torrent, they allowed the ability to block cancel at the same time you can dodge cancel, and also fixed an issue where Raging Torrent's tracking wasn't properly updating between attacks. So Raging Torrent should track a little bit better. Social distancing, remove distance condition on the route for the stay back upgrade. For the Ice Gauntlet, we just have a couple updates here. Ice Pylon will now be destroyed if Ice Gauntlet is unequipped. It will still persist if the Ice Gauntlet is equipped but inactive. Wind Chill, they moved the grit from the perk to being on the base ability. Increase Wind Chill's damage from 20% to 24% weapon damage per tick. Oh, Life Staff, I'm not looking forward to this one. This is really shitty, by the way. So they added VFX for the Life Staff passive Enchanted Justice so that players can more easily tell when it's active. They fixed an issue where targeted healing would target dead players or those on death's door. And here we go, Splash of Light. All right, guys, I want to talk quickly about the Life Staff. This Splash of Light change sucks. I'm still getting the hang of healing in wars. You know, it used to be a lot easier when you weren't going up against crazy strong ass freaking companies. Any of the wars I've played in lately, you know, I just get targeted over and over, which is obviously what you're supposed to do, kill the healers. I get that, but it is very difficult to heal your group. If you're a group healer, I mean, anybody can AoE heal. You throw a bunch of heals in the clump, done. But when you have a specific group to heal, it's this game makes it pretty difficult. And Splash of Light was kind of like our one heal that we can trust that's going to heal our group no matter what. It doesn't matter if you're in the clump, it doesn't matter if you're way far away from your team, you can always hit your group with a Splash of Light. It wasn't the strongest heal, it wasn't the best heal, but it was something, you know, it was something. If somebody's about to, you know, they have 50 more HP left, you could just bam, hit one button and you save them maybe for a couple more seconds. And they took that away. This is what they should have done, I think. Make the heal have less range, but increase the range of all the other Life Staff abilities. Not by like 100%, maybe 20, 30%. Instead of 25 meters, give us 35 meters, you know? Or fuck, I would even take 30 meters and just make Splash of Light the same range as everything else. But 25 meters is really, really close. And I'm really kind of butthurt about this change. What they did is they reduced the radius. Well, let me start from the top. So what they did is for Splash of Light is they reduced the radius from 100 meters to 25. So the range is consistent with other Life Staff abilities. And 25 meters is the range for everything. But to compensate for that, they increased the healing from 60% to 80% weapon damage. It's not gonna matter if you're out of range, you know? And the other thing that really sucks about healing is you can't tell if your person is out of range by looking at the party frames, you know? Give us that, you know? Give us a thing that shows if they're further than 25 meters away. Can you guys add something like that? I mean, we can't click on party frames. We have to use hotkeys or your scroll wheel. Like, come on, guys. Give the healer some love. This is not it. Splash of Light shared recovery upgrade to increase the mana gain from 5 to 15%. Giving us extra mana, 10% extra mana. Are you kidding me? We don't even need mana. Like, yes, we need mana to cast spells, but you're never out of mana. And if you do run out of mana, guess what? You pop a mana potion. I've never in this game ever been completely out of mana and had my mana pots on cooldown. I've never had those two conditions at the same time. If I'm out of mana, I always have a mana pot available. This is like a kick in the balls in my opinion. So rant's over, let's continue. So for the musket, they updated the musket crosshair to make it easier to see during combat. Power shot and powder burn upgrades. These abilities no longer require a dedicated reload, allowing them to be activated during many other actions, including shooter stance. Cooldown activation changed to start when a modified shot is fired rather than when it is loaded. Alright guys, Sword and Shield. So they fixed an issue where the sword's leaping strike ability could go on cooldown without being used if the ability button was pressed at the same time as a basic attack. Yes, this sucks for any weapons that this happens with. The name sword, Coral Lash. Oh wow, it's being updated. This is a very, very well-known sword. It should now have the same base offensive stats as other tier 5 swords and has the perk Trenchant Strikes as its legendary perk. Previously dropped versions of this item are unchanged. Only newly dropped versions are different. They also corrected an error on a handful of shields where their stat reference was assigned to the wrong tier. Some shields were moved up to the correct tier, like tier 5 shields that were marked as tier 4, and some shields were moved down to the correct tier, tier 4 and tier 3 shields that were marked as tier 5 and tier 4 respectively. We've got some changes to Whirling Blade, so they sped up the attack. They increased the damage from 145 to 160%. They increased the size of the hitbox. They added additional time to redirect attack during the startup. That's always nice. So as you're starting up the attack, if you're not in the right spot, you can still, correct it a little bit and line your attack up better. And opportunity upgrade, they increased the power of the Ren from 5% to 15%. So Whirling Blade got a pretty nice buff. Reverse Stab, they slightly sped up the attack animation on that as well. They adjusted the homing to account for updated attack speed. They slightly increased the hitbox size, and they added additional time to redirect the attack during the startup. So both Whirling Blade and Reverse Stab are getting some buffs. They're definitely getting some love. Defiant Stance, they added additional functionality to reduce the attacker's stamina damage while active by 20%, and they made it so the buff is applied earlier in the animation and reduce the recovery of the attack. Defensive Formation, they increased the radius of the AoE from 3 meters to 4 meters. Shield Rush, they reduced the recovery time, or the recovery of the extra animation that was played with the upgrades by 7 frames. For the Spear, so Sword and Shield got some pretty good buffs, I think. For Spear, Cyclone, they increased the damage from 130 to 165%. So Cyclone got a 35% damage increase. They also sped up the attack and they extended the hitbox down a bit to make it less likely to miss ground. For Void Gauntlet, they fixed an issue with the value not showing correctly in the Invigorating Oblivion's upgrade tooltip. They updated the tooltip on Cleansing Harvest to be more clear, also reduced the time the player needed to be in the harvest action for it to trigger from 1 second to 0.75 seconds. And also, Void Blade attacks can now have Grit with the 300 con attribute bonus. For Baleful Tether, does anybody even use that? They added functionality to keep the tether active while swapping to secondary stuff. Essence Rupture added text to the Overflowing Essence tooltip to indicate that the effect will trigger when it ends or if the target is killed. So not a lot of stuff going on with the Void Gauntlet. Warhammer, they adjusted the timing of the Mighty Gavel ability to have the hitbox appear 1 frame sooner. They fixed an issue where the Warhammer Wrecking Ball ability could damage targets outside of the hit area if quickly moving the camera while attacking. Updated the tooltip of the Safety Measures upgrade for Warhammer's Wrecking Ball ability to state the proper functionality of Fortify. And the named Warhammer, the Settler's Friend, has been renamed to the Diver's Companion to avoid confusion with the Hatchet. Mighty Gavel, they slightly increased the impact area of the attack, and they also reworked the Justice for All upgrade to grant 1 free Mighty Gavel use per cooldown. For Armor Breaker, they increased the damage from 140 to 160%. They increased the power of the Ren from the Lasting Trauma upgrade from 20 to 30%. So I'm seeing a theme with the Ren, they're increasing Rens. And they also updated the Opening Act upgrade to be against targets above 70% health. The Rapier got a couple changes or updates. For Flurry, they updated Flurry's damage to evenly distribute the damage across hits instead of having it escalate with each hit. So that's actually pretty good, unless you always get all the hits. They also adjusted the damage from being the escalating range of 47 to 83% damage for each hit to a consistent 60% damage per stab. So that goes with the first one. They also adjusted the homing to be more consistent and to properly line up with the attacks. So Flurry should be easier to hit. So that's definitely a pretty good buff. And I also, again, I like the damage, how it's going to evenly be distributed. So for Tondo, the proper spacing upgrade updated the condition from the target being in a 4 to 5 meter range to being against targets with the Rapier bleed. And then we have some perk changes. So they fixed an issue that caused the Invigorated Punishment perk to apply on basic attacks and not just abilities. So now it's going to be just on abilities. They updated the Thwarting Strikes perk to be able to roll on Void Gauntlets. Destroying Traps should no longer grant on-kill perks such as Mortal Empower. added additional text to clarify the functionality of the Great Axe Insatiable Gravity Well perk, fixed the issue where the Empowered Amulet perk would refresh constantly and extend the duration beyond intended durations, fixed an issue where the Refreshing Pillar of Fire perk would not consistently activate on 2 targets. Some game mode updates for invasions. They increased the difficulty of earlier waves to more smoothly ramp up the challenge over time. Invasion invites are now sent 5 minutes prior to the battle starting. Previously it was 15 minutes. Total match duration shortened from 30 minutes to 25 minutes. So basically they reduced the overall invasion by 5 minutes and they adjusted each wave accordingly. So for Outpost Rush, they fixed a bug where melee attacks would home towards unbuilt Outpost Rush structures. They also fixed an issue where the Corrupted Portal interaction was not displaying a progress circle when interacting with it, and they fixed an issue where a bouncing projectile could sometimes clip through wooden fort platforms. Improved projectile explosion line of sight checks so that an explosion on the bottom of a fort walkway could not hurt players standing on top of the walkway. We have made the following gameplay updates to the mode. So fort updates, siege weapons have had their health and damage increased, so we'll probably see some more siege weapons being used. They also increased the base range thrust damage resistance for gates, and this is so that people couldn't, shoot the gates down from a distance as well or as easily. And range thrust attacks or damage resistance is further increased with each upgrade. Corrupted Portal event update. They updated the event to give a brute summon after all enemies have been defeated and you close the portal by interacting with it. Event is now on a timer, offering another place for PvP players to engage. And they also removed the 750 Azoth Bank. They've made some changes to the summons that you can do in OPR, so you may now acquire summon stones from Alpha Wolves, Ugdugs, and Corrupted Portal event. Bareness updates. So added an interactable shield wall at both entrances that prevents range attacks from going through in order to prevent long-range sniping. Wow. Personal scoring updates. So they updated the personal scoring to give more points for defending and capturing, and they added a new personal scoring vector for tanking. And death updates. You will now only drop half of your resources on death. PvP arenas. So they fixed an issue where if part of a group was still in a match, the button to queue would look enabled, but wouldn't function. The button is now grayed out with a tooltip explaining why. All of the group members must return to the open world before they can queue for a game mode. The rewards given from 3v3 arenas have been increased. The first 2 arenas completed daily now award the player 1 extra weapon or armor each. These are the same items that are given by Outpost Rush rewards, so they can be upgraded to 600 to receive a legendary perk with Umbral Shards. The Azoth Salt and PvP XP rewards have also been increased based on the number of rounds won in the match. Open World PvP. They modified the PvP open world kills to always grant 800 PvP XP and Azoth Salt as long as the player has been PvP active for 10 minutes instead of the previous 100 out of 100, 800 out of 800, and 1600 out of 1600. Weapons and armors that can drop from open world PvP now have PvP perks on them. Oh, that's cool. All right, guys, we're almost done. Economy, progression, and gear. And this is for gear and loot in general. So they adjusted the attribute perks applied to Gypsum Cast gear to optimize them towards the item's preferred stat. As part of the health and stamina increases, the town projects Hale and Hardy and Stalwart have been removed. And remember, this is because of that increase that we talked about earlier. They also fix an issue that caused multiple versions of the named AI, the Heal in the Empyrean Forge, to drop loot. Now only one will drop loot when killed. These item sets have been re-added as drop items. These can drop in the same locations and ways as other gathering trade skill armors. Clothier, Costumier, Preventer, and Grocer. For territory management. So due to First Light no longer being a claimable territory, the following territories will receive a higher percentage of the territory income pool. Morningdale is going to get a increase of 2.5, bringing it from 5 to 7.5%, and same with Weaver's Fen. So it looks like fishing has quite a few changes. So for fishing, they slightly reduced the time to get a nibble when using bait. Buffed the tension recovery for tier 3, 4, and 5 fishing poles. The celebration zoom for quality catches no longer applies to uncommon and rare fish. They changed the effect for all bait. Baits now only affect rarity. They also reduced the crafting cost for bread, cheese, meat, and fish bait. They rebalanced the usability of all baits. Some are now only effective at certain times of day. When using legendary bait, in addition to salmon, adventurers now have a slim chance to catch a rare fat. Fish have scattered all over Eternum and now find themselves in different homes. Redistributed each territory's fish population to better balance the value of each territory's fishing pool so that all territories have something exciting. Some territories are still tailored towards certain types of experiences. Sturgeon and sculpin are now catchable in fresh and salt water. Frogfish is now only catchable in salt water. Legendary fish also have new home territories, but there's now a chance to catch any legendary in any territory. Alright, next up is Seasons, Journey, Challenges, and Activities. Introduced a new Season 2 journey, taking players to content around Eternum with an emphasis on Brimstone Sands. Increase the quantity of tasks in Chapters 2, 4, and 5. Rebalance the experience granted from the Season journey. Your journey will now play a slightly larger role in progressing to the end of your Season Pass. Increase the experience given from Season Challenges from 3,500 to 4,500 per challenge. So challenges are going to be a little bit chunkier for experience for completing your Season Pass. The activity card task list will now have at least 3 tasks from each category, up from 1. So before, when you had your little bingo card, you can have like only one option for a certain category. Now you're going to have at least 3 tasks from each category. So that's going to make the activity cards just a little bit more consistent, I guess. And the activity card task list count now has 21 tasks per list, up from 16. So you have a bigger list of options. They added new activity tasks to the activity card. Kill 5 scorpions, gather 500 resources, kill 10 dune walkers, kill a named dune walker, loot an elite sulfur chest, get a killing blow in PvP, earn 100 PvP XP, and loot an elite chest. And there's a quick dev note, which I haven't seen. We want to ensure there's a clear path for solo players through each chapter, and the addition of new tasks will help players of all playstyles progress to the end of the season journey. Some notable fixes: season consumable tokens now have a pending text when a token grant or purchase is pending. Journey tasks that award a title now display the title underneath the task. Address an issue when banners displayed over the season rewards screen. They are now suppressed until closing season rewards. And change name of booster and permits menu to augments. Some UX, UI, and social changes. First, we'll start with visual fixes. They fixed a visual issue with the following: the Drakengard Knight's Shield, the knickers of the Spear Daughter apparel, the Crimson Plague gloves and shoulder pads, the Death's Coronation pants, the feminine Majestic shirt, and the Spiked Shredder Chaps armor skin. Some notable fixes: they fixed an issue where gathering would not display the correct gather tool and animation, addressed icons being off-centered for a handful of fire staffs, trading post drop-down menu filter no longer displays distance, fix an issue that caused the debug text to appear in the Expedition Group Finder menu, fix an issue where looking at a storage container that is nearly full would continue to show the item limit when switching to gear set storage, fix an issue where the item tier would remain on item slots in the gear set storage selection pop-up. Fix an issue where use the split stack modifier could prevent dragging items in your gear set storage. Fix an issue where player-owned camp skins are not on the top of the menu. Fix an issue where camp skins that are not owned by a player and unavailable to purchase are visible in the change skin menu. Fix an issue where the player camera stays zoomed when leaving the inventory after using the die equipped armor panel. Address an issue where the PvP symbol overlapped with the damage equipment indicator on the HUD, and fix an issue where certain languages cause gear details background to stretch over hide gear sets button along with health, mana, and stamina bars. They changed some tooltips. They updated all healing power increase tooltips to clarify that they are either damage based healing, healing that scales off the player's damage output, or incoming healing. Updated Shriveled tooltip to be more clear about the healing reduction. It only applies to damage-based healing and not all incoming healing. Updated the 200 focus attribute bonus tooltip to clarify that it increases buff durations and not just casted buffs. Corrupted Portal HUD icon has had its tooltip updated. Outpost Rush has had its tooltip icon and timer updated, and they updated the tooltip message explaining character deletion rules. Players are able to get their characters back if they contact customer support within 7 days of deletion. And then we have some quality of life changes, a couple other minor things, and then we're all done. So, quality of life, this is probably one of my favorite sections. They added a player requested feature to be able to search for perks and gems within the inventory. Nice. Updated the PvP activation notification to move down the pinned quest list to be able to see the notification clearly. Updated emote icons associated with the PvP tracker rewards to be a higher res. Updated icon hierarchy to prioritize quest markers and only display one quest marker over the settlement icon at full zoom level. Rewards listed at the beginning of expeditions should no longer show more perks than they can drop. Locked, stackable housing items no longer unlock when moving between inventory and storage. Updated vote to kick icon when notifying players to agree on kicking another player from the group. Tip keybind setting in the housing section of the options. The keybind menu has been renamed as Housing Help. And some social changes. Companies must now have at least 25 members to declare war on a territory. After introducing mercenary limits, we heard feedback and saw companies who declared war were not filling their rosters due to not having enough members in their company. We hope this ensures attacking armies are fully staffed more often. While in a group, you may now choose a role that will appear as an icon next to your character name. To other group members from the group options menu, you can select tank, DPS, or heals, which is pretty cool. Fix an issue where the governor leaving the company allowed any member to take over as governor instead of only consuls for a period of time, before then allowing anyone to take over. They fixed an issue where the game could still think players had a group invite after hiding it, preventing from queuing for game modes. Fix an issue where emotes wouldn't cancel properly when teleporting, and a notification will now be sent to players when they try a PvP action that they have to wait about 5 minutes after deleting a PvP active character in order to be made PvP active. So I'm going to read that one again. A notification will now be sent to players when they try a PvP action that they have to wait about 5 minutes after deleting a PvP active character in order to be made PvP active. And then just some audio and voiceover stuff. I guess I'll read it really quick. So general, resolved an issue where Nubium scarabs wouldn't always play their sound effects. Resolved an issue where the Daughterwell fountain was missing sound effects. Going in ebb and scale can now be heard in proximity and far away when struck with a weapon. Fix an issue that caused the Devour Heart Room audio to linger. Flaming lizards during the Flamekeeper encounter now have sound effects when they're destroyed. Updated the sound effects that can be heard when gaining new items of different whatever. Voiceovers, fix a voiceover issue with the following. The dialogue for Aventus Valenti at the Syndicate Enclave. Decima Optimus in French, Italian, Polish, and Portuguese languages. Dialogue for Frank Dubois at the Everfall Settlement. Dialogue for Grace O'Malley in the Crow's Nest at the Shattered Mountain. Holt Hutchinson during the Bear Cohabitation Quest. Pinter Wilcott during the Wolcott's Masterpiece Quest. Wistful Billiam Rowan during the Mother Ocean Quest. Grace O'Malley during the Bridge into the Past Quest in Spanish for Mexico. Dialogue for Decima Optimus in Italian. Holt Hutchinson, Maura Ogan, and dialogue for Mr. Joseph Black. Thanks for your support. We'll see you in Eternum. You're welcome, guys.